Oftentimes when life goes south, we do cry. If something goes wrong, we start to look for someone to blame. Normal things, something goes wrong, right? Oh, it's your fault. You didn't do the dishes yesterday. You didn't cook. You didn't, whatever it is. Like if you're married, you'll have your own things, right? But when those problems happen, what is your action plan? Do you right away go towards blame? If you do, then one day, what will happen? One day you'll run out of people to blame. Eventually, when you run out of people and there's no one left in the room, and the situation falls on you, instead of pointing at yourself, you will point to God. You say, that's his problem. He did that to me. He messed me up. But if we had that foundation of constructive criticism, where we're okay with looking at ourselves and saying, you know what, I think I did make a mistake here. You know what, I said this to you and I shouldn't have. These might seem like simple qualities, but these are virtues. When that situation comes, when things do go south very severely, in that moment, who you are comes out. Right now is your time where you do your homework, not on the test. When little things happen in life, that's your homework. That's where you try to develop yourself and you progress yourself spiritually, mentally, physically, whatever it is. You develop that relationship with Guru Sahib to say, you know what, Maharaj, ये चीज़ मेरे नाल होई है, तुहाडे पाने विच होई है. May I find your will, your hukam to be sweet. Maharaj, give me that strength to walk on your path. Jo to the pav sai pali kar. Whatever you do is the best for me. This is your homework when little things happen. Then when test day comes, when something unspeakable happens, something you can't fathom, you can't digest, whatever you've been developing till this point will come out. Whatever is inside of you will come out during that time. When the world ends for you, where will you be? Will you be in that state of mind to accept the Guru's hukam as mitta, as sweet? Will you be in that state of mind to question and blame someone else and not look inwards? The day of the test, when it comes, and it will come to everyone, it does come to everyone, dukh will come, pains will come. That day is so important. That is their day of seeing who you truly are. That's your mirror. And when that day comes, you have a chance to accept what has happened and move on. And move on in the right direction. Not move on in the direction you were always moving on, but to change yourself. In that moment, if you could find the Guru, if you can find his Bani, you can find his direction, his path, things will change. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome back to a new episode in the Charitropakhyan series. Today we'll be covering Charitra number 38. And it starts off with Chaupai Bohorso Mantri Katha Uchari. Now from the overarching story, the advisors are now beginning to narrate a new tale to Raja Charitra Singh, Ek Turan Joban Ki Pari. And as they start their narration, they start off with a character, a woman. Yeah? They say this woman was at the height of her youth. Ek chor ta kehe thag bariyo. And this woman, she got married to two individuals. She got married to a robber and a gangster. What a pair to get married to, huh? Adik ananda dohon chit kariyo. And she, she was pleasing to both of them, right? So both of these individuals, they really enjoyed her company. Ran pe taskar uthe jave. So how would they kind of divide her up, right? How would they, how they divided her up was kind of based off of their own jobs, right? So one was a robber, one was a gangster. So at nighttime, the robber will go out and steal. Din dekhat thag darab kamave. And during the day, the gangster will go out and, make his money. And the woman will commit to an intimate relationship with both of these, right? Both of these men. So during the daytime, when the robber was home, she would be engaging with him. And during nighttime, when the gangster was home, she would be engaging with him, right? But these men, they were both naive. Right? They couldn't recognize, they couldn't recognize the truth of the matter. Right? There's a secret here. Something's lurking around behind her love, right? For these two individuals, but they were naive. They couldn't see that, right? They were both happy with her. Thag jana mori hai nari. The gangster thought of this woman as his. Chor kya hai mori hitkari. And the robber, he would look at this woman and be like, "This, no, she's mine," right? Like in their own minds, right? They would both look at this woman and be like, "You know what? This is, she loves me," right? And the other person would be thinking the same thing, right? So the robber was like, in his mind, he's like, "This is my woman. She loves me," and in the gangster's mind, he's thinking that she loves me, which is quite interesting because why would you get married to that woman in the first place who's marrying two individuals, right? Like, well, why would you and then think that what, she doesn't really like the other guy that much, she likes me more, right? Having that type of mindset, that it's kind of self-centric mindset, right? That like it's all revolving around me. Anyways, we'll go through the story. Triya kehta hai do pehchana. Both of these people, both of these individuals, these men, they both saw this woman as theirs. Murkh ped na kahu jana. But they were naive, right? They were foolish. They couldn't. They remained blind to the truth. Chopai. Ek ramal bal hit kadda. So one day, the story goes that one day, the woman, with both of these men present, maybe they both had a day off. Robber had his day off. It was a Sunday, and the gangster was off as well, or whatever it was. They were both home, right? So the woman, she takes out a scarf. Daun ke jiya anand bada. And both of these men seeing the scarf, and what they got happy, thinking that she's gonna gift a scarf to them. Obviously, it's one scarf. You can't go to two men. Right? It has to go to one person. Veh jana moro hit kya hai? The gangster thought it was for him, while chor lakha mohi kaida hai. While the robber thought, she would give it to him. Dohra chor triya pyara huto ta ko hundiya rumal. So eventually, the woman makes her choice, and she gives the scarf to the robber, as she found him more pyara. She found him more loving. And the gangster, seeing her give this rumal, this scarf to the other guy, he got angry, Chaupai mustajud taskar so kiyo, and a fight broke out between these two men. Chin ramal haath tay liyo, and the gangster, he grabs the scarf away from the robber. Chor kaha motriya eh kadda, and the robber, he's like, "Yo, dude, this was given to me by my woman, right? Yo son adik ros jiya barda." And the gangster, hearing this, he's like, "What do you mean your woman?" He got even more angry. Aap beech gari do dehi. They both started to curse at each other. Daat nikar case kaheli. They pulled on each other's hair, they tugged on it, they started attacking each other. Lal mustake kara parhara. They bit each other, they kicked each other, they punched each other. As you can imagine, this is a WWE match between a robber and a gangster. It's gonna be pretty gruesome. Janak chot parah kariyara. And they trashed each other, they beat each other up so much. It's, the kind of the literal example being used here is of a pendulum, in a clock, a pendulum swings back and forth, and that way they're punching each other back and forth. After fighting, after getting all bloody and messed up, they eventually made their way back to the woman. And much anger, they asked the question. They wanted this question of theirs to be answered. Thag taskar dahum bachan uchari. Both the robber and the gangster wanted to know that ehinar ke mori nari. They both wanted to know, and are you my woman or his? Right? So both of these guys had the same question. Dohra sun taskar thag main keho ho tahi ki nar. And this woman, she responded by saying, "I belong to that man who jo chal bal janna kano ja main birij apar." Who knows the art of deception and who is very strong, I guess in this context of being deceiving, right? I belong to that person who knows the art of deception and who's skilled in that art. Yeah. What a story for Charitropakhyan, right? Perfect. Who knows? Okay. Bohar bal aso kahan suno bachan man mur ek. So mo ko istri kara jiye mein hai hunar anek. And she repeats by saying, I am the woman of that man who has this talent and skill set of deceiving others. Chopai sun bala main ban tiharo. The gangster, he's like, you know what? That's it. That's your condition. What? Oh my woman, I have listened to your words. And he says, Ab porakh ta dekh hamaro. Now you watch my strength. Watch me act in deception, and I'll prove to you that I am the better one. Adik biraj ja main jiyata raha. I am a true man. This other guy, he doesn't have anything to his name, but me, I have, manhood, basically. Tahi keh apno pat kar hai. And then you'll see, after you see me do what I'm gonna do, in deception, you'll see that I am your rightful husband, right? And this other guy should go. After saying this gangster, he went into town. And he found a jewelry store, and he's like, you know what? This looks like the place that I want to make my move. He enters the store and he starts to eye all the gold, in the jewelry store. And as you can imagine, it's a jewelry store. They're gonna have different things. They're gonna have gold, silver, but he's gonna go for the highest thing, right? He's gonna look for the highest thing here. Eventually, the jeweler of the shop, right? He sees that there's someone here. He's gonna go ask to see if he needs any help. The jeweler approaches the gangster. Dohra aspat uchatar peha huav tilo sarbhang. Very kindly and politely, the gangster, he sees the jeweler comes to him, and he says, hey, mohran ko soda karo saho tihare sang. He's like, would you help me purchase some gold coins today? Very nicely, professionally, politely, and kindly. This gangster, he brings out his as much as that he had on the inside, he takes it out, puts an act on, right? And he says, hey man, would you be able to, help me buy some gold coins? I wish to purchase some gold coins today. Madan Rai thag emkahi manamamantar bichar. So until now, we weren't given a name for this gangster, but now we are. His name is Madan Rai. Yeah, so that's his name. And Madan Rai spoke in this way after reflecting on what he needs to do, after thinking, deeply of how he's going to perform his deception, perform this charitra. He thought a lot about this, right? And this is kind of his entry port of this deception. He figured out the best way to start this off is by being nice. Lam horo rupya devo tum kahe saha sudahar. And Madan Rai says that, look, I'll be giving you good amount of rupees, right, in exchange for your gold, right? So the currency of that time, I'll give you cash for the gold, right? You've probably seen those pawn shops, right? They're like, bring your gold and we'll give you cash, right? So this is a jeweler shop. They're like, bring your cash, we'll give you gold, right? Chope. Yo jab saho ban sunapayo. When the jeweler heard this proposition of Madan Rai, that he wants to be a customer, the jeweler, he hears this kind, professional person, and maybe he's even dressed professionally. We're not told that, but if he's speaking that way, he has this idea of deceiving this guy. Maybe he's dressed in a certain way as well, right? And so after the jeweler hears the words of the gangster, he falls for it. He's like, you know what, this guy looks like he's going to be a good customer, right? So he takes out his highest valued gold coins. He doesn't go for the normal stuff. He doesn't go for the little gold rings. He doesn't go for the little necklaces or the earpieces. He goes for the biggest stuff he has, because the way the gangster Madan Rai presented himself, the jeweler, and this is kind of a thing about business, right? As a business owner, you're constantly judging your customer. You're trying to think, well, this customer, what is this customer like? Is he just a normal guy that's, you know, spending $5 today, $10 today? Is he a medium guy who wants to spend a few $100s, or is this a guy that wants to spend a few $1,000s, right? And if it's a guy that can spend a few $1,000s, then I want to cater to this customer in that way, right? And in that way, when he presented himself, when Madan Rai presented himself, he presented himself as the highest customer. Right? He was able to you know, deceive the jeweler. He was able to put on this act, this kind of, you know, portrayal that I am this highest guy, you know. And just in that way, a you know, shop holder or a businessman, he's looking at his customers and he's seeing, you know, what type of customer they are, and he or she provides the product according to their customers, you know, desires, right? Their customer, like what they want and how much they have to afford that, right? In that same way, Guru Arjan Dev Ji, they talk about this life being a type of vapar as well, this life being a type of business as well. And they say, Sach vapar karoho vapari, dargah nibh khep tumhari. And this is it's a really interesting pankti, because Maharaj is talking here about a business, right? Like, you're here in this world to conduct a business. So what is that business? You're here to, you know, find the truth. The merchandise you're trying to buy is the truth, right? But within that business, and within business in general, the game is not played by one person, right? It's not just the businessman or the company that you know is responsible for this transaction, right? It takes two to tango, right? Okay, it takes two to play this game, right? You need the business, you need that franchise, you need that product, right? Who's going to be supplying? Sorry, you need that business, you need that franchise, you need this company that's going to be supplying the product. But then you need a demand as well, right? You need the customer on the other side who's going to be jumping in, having this conversation, and then eventually purchasing this product, right? Sach vapar karo vapari. Maharaj say, perform that trade, perform that business of truth, right? So what that means is that first we need to find that company, that franchise, that establishment that will be selling the truth, right? That's the first criteria. The second criteria is to be that customer who is applicable to buy the truth in the first place, right? If, for example, you go into a jeweler's shop and you can only afford $100 jewelry, so he's got to give you that $100 jewelry. It's not going to be pure gold, right? It's not going to be 22 karat gold. It's not going to be whatever. It might be, you know, some type of metal mixed in with a little bit of gold, maybe, but with other impurities, right? It's got to be what you can afford, right? So as a customer of the truth, we're looking for the truth. What we need to do is have that credentials to be able to purchase the truth in the first place. Right? The guru is selling the truth. He's giving the truth to us. We want to grab the truth, but we gotta have that spiritual foundation. We're going to have that development, personal development. We're going to have all these different things to be able to buy the truth. We're going to have self-reflection. Bande khoj dil har roj. You know, Guru Sahib tells us, search your heart every single day. Self-reflect. You know, the things you do. Challenge yourself. Challenge your beliefs. Don't just be a follower. Be a leader, right? Be that person who's going to be leading, because to be the customer of the truth, you're going to have to be a leader. You can't just be a follower. You just can't follow something because someone told you to follow it. You're going to have a brain. You're going to have, but that brain can't just be loose and be running around thinking whatever you want. You're going to have some kind of grounding, some kind of composure. And that's where Gurbani and your personal bhakti, your devotion, your foundation comes into the scene. If you have that spiritual development into you, you have that grounding, you have that composure, you have Nam Bani inside you, then when you do think, you do become intellectually wise, you do gain education, then when you do challenge your biases, you do challenge your beliefs, you're going to be going towards the truth, not going away from the truth. Because you have that spiritual foundation in the first place, which is guiding you towards the truth. But if you don't have that spiritual foundation, you don't have that grounding, then your journey of the truth is misguided. It can be anywhere. It can go in any direction. And hence you won't be that vapari, you won't be that customer that Guru Sahib wants you to be. So in this story, Madan Rai, he's deceiving the jeweler, right? He's not being a customer with that credential. He doesn't have money to his name. He doesn't have what it needs to take to buy all these gold coins. He's faking it. And it's a question to ourselves, are we faking it? Do we just have, are we entering the shop of the truth? Right? Are we coming to the Guru's house and faking it? If we are, what's the point of that? The Guru knows we're faking it. We're not honest to ourselves. And because we're not honest to ourselves, we're not honest to the Guru. Madan Rai is not being honest to this jeweler, right? So the jeweler, but he falls for it, right? He's not like, obviously he's not Guru style where he's gonna be able to see the truth. He's falling for it, right? And he's like, you know what? This guy looks really good. He takes out all his best gold coins. When he takes it out, right? When Madan Rai looks at all these coins, he starts to notice that each coin has a minted date, right? So when coins are minted, we don't say created, we say minted, right? When gold coins are minted, they sometimes have some type of, description on them, which will tell you what era or time period this coin was minted in. So these coins, they had a description on them, which he was able to recognize when these coins were minted. Sab sanki manpi tatari, and he makes a mental note, right? He knows all these coins have these descriptions on them, which he can then deduce what time period they're from. He makes a mental note of all these coins. He grabs a bag and he throws all of them in there, and this is where his deception now goes into play. Okay. Adikamar baniya keh dahi. He puts all the coins into his bag and he looks at the jeweler. And jeweler's like, what is this? What's this guy doing? Right? Like, is he buying all these things? He's probably perplexed. He doesn't understand. The gangster looks and he goes into his gangster state, where he's playing nice guy before. Now he's normal gangster. And he takes a punch and boom, punches the jeweler in his face. And he starts to beat him up. Then he goes outside, he grabs the jeweler and he goes outside, throws him on the floor and he makes a ruckus, right? He makes a scene. He says, I'm not gonna sell you my gold coins. Alright, now look, check this out. He's pretending to be a seller. He pretends like he brought these gold coins into the jeweler's shop to sell it to the jeweler. Check it out. He took the jeweler's coins and he's playing it against him. He's like, I'm not gonna sell you these coins, old man, right? Like, he didn't say old man, I'm adding that myself, getting to play, into the acting. But yeah, I'm not gonna sell you these coins. While jewelers on the floor, people are coming and hearing this commotion. They're coming out of their shops or wherever this is a town, right? This business area. They're coming out of their shops. Listening to this loud ruckus, right? All the people gathered around the jeweler's shop, gathered around the scene that's happening outside the jeweler's shop. Then, seeing these two fight each other, they were quite surprised. Like, what's going on here? Why are these guys fighting each other? Jeweler's fighting back. The gangster, he's probably just punching him back there, right? Putting him in his spot. But people were surprised. Then townspeople, they started asking, Oh brothers, why are you fighting? Why are you guys hitting each other up? Tell us what the problem is. We'll try to fix it. And people said, we'll take both of you guys. And we'll take you to the Kaji. Kaji's like, especially in them days, and this is more of a Islamic setting, as you'll find out as the story progresses. In those days especially, and still now within many Middle Eastern countries, the religious leader called the Kaji, he was not only the leader of the religious institutions, but he was also the leader of the courts, right? So the justice system, right? And so it was all kind of connected. So the people said, we'll take you to the Kaji and get you justice, right? Just tell us what's going on. Hearing this, the gangster, he stops fighting. He stops beating up the jeweler. He's like, okay, looks like it's working. Looks like I'm in, you know, everything's working now. And he says, he looks up. Did you mention the Kaji? Did you mention the courts? Oh, perfect. I am ready to go with you to the Kaji. He showed himself to be in so much pain and in humility. You know, he shows humility and he says, Kar Kaji te nyay hamaro, that the Kaji is the only person who gave me justice for what has happened. So just in the way he showed himself to be a kind, nice person when he walks in a jeweler's shop, right? He's like, show me the best you got. Now he's being such a humble person and such a person who's in pain and suffering. He's like, this Kaji has done me wrong. And I need to go to the courts. I need to get justice. Yeah. So imagine this is kind of, you know, what I was talking about before. Follower just look at that and be like, yeah, this guy's kind. This guy's nice. Yeah, this guy's humble. Look what has happened to him, right? But a thinker will start to question, like, what if this guy's can a thinker will try to see past the false facade that he has on, right? But again, you can only have that. You can only be able to think in the right direction if you have that background, right? So, for example, in this scenario, if an investigator was there for say, right, a detective was there for say, right, a cop was there, right, they would be much more aware of a person's facade, right? They'll be much more aware of a person's, you know, fakeness, right? But obviously these guys were not aware, right? They were just normal town people. Now, the jeweler and Madan Rai, the robber, the gangster, they both come in front of the Kaji. They come into the court. Dohra tab lag baniya hua dukhi im Kaji so ban. The jeweler, with tears in his eyes and his heart full of pain, he spoke. Hamro karo nyay tum kehyo sravat jalnan. With tears in his eyes, he said, "Oh Kaji, please deliver justice to me." Right? Let's find out if if the justice system favors the innocent or favors other guy. Jo pai sun Kaji ju bachan hamare. Oh Kaji ji, please listen to my request. Kalamullah ki aan tihare. I swear upon the holy Quran, Khudai sunege dad hamaro. May Allah Khuda be my witness and listen to my pains. Hua ho davangir tuharo. I have full support, full faith that you will support me. So this is the jeweler talking. Dohra adik deen hua thak kehyo sun kajan ke rai. And Madan Rai, the gangster, he sees all this. He's like, I'm not gonna fall behind here. So he also jumps on board and he starts to plead. He says, in the most humble way possible, he says, "Oh, king of all Kajis." He's pamper him up a bit, give him a little bit of an ego boost. Ham pokar tum pair kari hamro karo nyay. I also place all my faith in you and I plead to you to give me justice. So here's Madan Rai. He's also, giving his side of the story. The jeweler's giving his side of the story. Chopai, tab Kaji ji nyay bicharo. After they gave their side of the story, the Kaji starts to think. He's like, both these guys are telling me that they're innocent, right? Both of these guys are telling me. The jeweler is saying, these are my gold coins. The gangster, Madan Rai, he's saying that these are my gold coins, right? I was here in the jeweler shop to sell them. And the jeweler is saying, no, these were mine. And he took them from me and he's pretending like he was the actual owner, right? So the Kaji is thinking, how can I bring justice to the one who is truly speaking the truth? So Pragat Sabha mein dahun ucharo. And after thinking of it, he gets an idea. And he says this to the court. He's like, okay, there's one way that I can figure out who the true owner, custodian is of these coins. If you can tell me the time era when these coins were minted, whoever can tell me, they are the true custodians of these coins. So sab aaj asarfi pave. That person will assume possession of these coins today. The Kaji first looks at the jeweler to see if he has an answer. San mohorin ko banak na jano. And jeweler, he scratches his head. Unfortunately, he does not remember. Maybe even if you did, with all the stress and everything that's happening, imagine when something like this is happening to you, you're not going to be a normal person anymore. Your brain will be running in 10 different directions, because you will be on fight or flight mode, right? And if this is something that's really important to you, like, so many gold coins should be really important to you, right? Like, if you're a jeweler, then your mind will not be in the right space. So even if he knew the answer in that moment, he was scratching his head. He did not know when these coins were minted. Moond raha mukkachna pakano, and he stands there fumbling. He's quiet, right? He doesn't know what to say. He stands there like a mute, unable to answer to the Qaji. Roye peet kar karta pukara. Eventually, the jeweler faces the truth, and he realizes he will not be able to answer this question. And when he realizes that, the thought comes to his mind that he's gonna lose all these coins. And he starts to cry and shout out, "Ha ha kiyas kaha kartara." And he says, "Oh God, why did you do this to me?" He starts to cry and wail, and he said, "God, why? Mere na kyun?" And oftentimes when life goes south, right? When things go south, we do cry, right? We sometimes look for people to blame, and this goes back to the thing I was talking about: spiritual foundation, your grounding, right? Where is that? And you can see in our daily actions where that is. If something goes wrong, we start to look for someone to blame. We look for someone to point. Normal things. Something goes wrong, right? We're like, "Oh, it's your fault. You didn't do the dishes yesterday. It's your fault. You didn't." Simple things, right? You didn't cook. You didn't whatever it is. Like, if you're married, you'll have your own things, right? If you're someone's son or daughter, you'll have your own things. If you're you're a parent, you'll have your own things. In work, you have problems that happen, right? Wherever you are in life. But when those problems happen, what is your action plan? Do you right away go towards blame, regret? Do you right away go into that state of mind? If you do, then one day, what will happen? One day you'll run out of people to blame. You will run out of people to point to that it's their fault. Eventually, when you run out of people and there's no one left in the room, and the situation falls on you, instead of pointing at yourself, you will point to God. You say, that's his problem. He did that to me. He messed me up. Obviously, I'm just using the word he for the ease of communication to you guys. But we blame God. We say that he did that to me. Right? I was innocent. But if we had that foundation of constructive criticism, where we're okay with looking at ourselves and saying, "You know what, I think I did make a mistake here. You know what, I said this to you and I shouldn't have," right? If we have that self-reflection, these are, these might seem like simple qualities, but these are virtues. And when someone has these virtues, it's much easier for that person to be honest with themselves and be honest with others. And here, our jeweler, he's in such a state of mind, and when that situation comes, when things do go south, right, like very severely, in that moment, who you are comes out. Who you are comes out. Not something you won't be able to think as you can think now. Today, right now, is your time where you do your homework. You do your homework, not on the test. When a test comes along, then you are doing muscle memory at that test. What I mean is when little things happen in life, that's your homework. That's where you try to develop yourself, and you progress yourself, right? Spiritually, mentally, physically, whatever it is. You develop that relationship with Guru Sahib to say, "You know what, Maharaj, ये चीज़ मेरे नाल होई है, तुहाडे भाने विच होई है. May I find your will to be meetha. May I find your will, your hukam, to be sweet." This is your homework when little things happen, right? Maharaj, give me that strength to walk on your path. Jo tud bhav hai, sai pali kar. Jo tusi karde ho, oh mere vaste pal hai. Whatever you do is the best for me. Reprogramming your brain, reprogramming your mind to think in this way. This is your homework. Then when test day comes, when something unspeakable happens, something you can't fathom, you can't digest happens, that time muscle memory will happen. Whatever you've been developing till this point will come out. Jo jiya hoye so ugve. Mohuka kya vow. Wow. Guru Nanak Dev Ji says, whatever is inside of you will come out during that time. In the Abrahamic religions, they believe in Judgment Day. And within the Indic religions, they believe that there will be a Kalki Avatar, something will come. Everyone's waiting for that time. They're all waiting for that day. Everything will come to end, right? Everyone's waiting for that day. Every tradition just has a different name for it. But that day comes in each and every our lives. Someone's life just left them. Someone just got jobless, right? They lost their job. Someone loses their home. They can't pay their mortgage. These days, and that's the end of the world for that person. What if us thinking, if the world's ending the year 2000, the world's ending the year 2026. For that person, the world ended that day. When the world ends for you, where will you be? Will you be in that state of mind to accept the Guru's hukam as mitha, as sweet? Will you be in that state of mind to question and blame someone else and not look inwards? The day of the test, when it comes, and it will come to everyone, it does come to everyone, dukh will come, pains will come. That day is so important. That is their day of seeing who you truly are. That's your mirror. And when that day comes, you have a chance. Yes, things went bad. You have a chance, though, to accept what has happened and move on. And move on in the right direction. Not move on in the direction you were always moving on, but to change yourself. That's your time to. That is your new birth. If that hits you in that moment, you know what? I did wrong. If that hits you in that moment, you got a new birth. In that moment, if you could find the Guru, if you can find his Bani, you can find his direction, his path, things will change. Okay. So, when this happened, right, he said, "Oh God, why did you do this to me?" Madan Rai, he's standing on the other side, right? Very patiently. The jeweler is done crying, and his cries are now getting muffled, right? He's going in, like he's going to like he's running, he's just going to his hands, and Madan Rai now takes this opportunity and speaks very calmly. He says, "Dohra mohar akbari ek satan jahangiri so doe saye jahani char sa dekh le ho sab koe." And he's like, "Oh Kaji, I can tell you right away that there's about 100 Akbari coins, there's 200 Jahangir coins, there's 400 Shah Jahani coins, and you guys can go ahead and check it." Right? So these names that I just mentioned are Mughal emperors. Right? So Akbar was an emperor, Jahangir was an emperor, his son was Shah Jahan, who was an emperor. Right? These are like emperors. So during their reign, the coins that were minted, during their reign, the coins were minted, so they're called, after the name of the emperor. So if they were minted during Akbar's time, they're called Akbari coins. If they were minted during Jahangir's time, they're called Jahangir's coins, right? So that's kind of, so he memorized all those coins. He memorized how many coins were from which era, which time period, and he says them. Chopai Saba Beach Jab Mohar Ugari. When the court officials grab this bag of gold coins and they start to examine each coin, so nikri jo thaghe uchari, they confirmed that what Madan Rai said was the truth. Kaji Chin Sahun Te Lini, the Kaji himself grabs the bag of coins. La taskar ke kar main dini. He's like, you know what? You are the rightful owner. He gives it to the gangster, Madan Rai. Dohra. Jab Kaji ko pasreo, Charitropakhyan sab gao. Once the court was dismissed, Madan Rai walks back into town. He lets everyone know how great the Kaji is. He delivers justice. Kino Umar Khitab Jim Aaj Hamara Nyao. According to Islamic law, he has delivered me justice, he proclaims. He said happily. Chopai Thaglaka Mohoro Kar Ayo. The gangster makes his way back home with the acquired gold coins. Tin Kaji Kach Nyay Na Payo. The Kaji was never able to know the truth behind Madan Rai. Banya Card Sadanate Nina. Instead of delivering justice to the poor jeweler, he had thrown him out of his own house, right? Basically made him bankrupt. Jhuthe te sacha thakina. The liar, Madan Rai, was made to be the truthful person. The liar was made to be someone who was speaking the truth. Dohra, Thaghe asarfi saat sa kar dini narna hai. Now, this last stanza here, the advisors to Raja Chitra Singh from the overarching story, they say that the Kaji handed over 700 gold coins to this gangster. And when he got home, he handed his gold coins to his woman. And this is the end of this Charitar, but it's not the end of the story. The story will continue in the next Charitar. But I kind of want to digest one crucial point, and we talked a little bit, already during this episode. But I want to talk about a different point. And the point was here where the Kaji was like, you know what, you are speaking the truth. Here you go. I'll deliver you justice, right? And we know, as people hearing the story, that the truth was something else, right? The truth was something else. But the Kaji believed that to be the truth, and therefore he made it the truth. And that kind of goes into the truth and lies of this world, right? And the truth and the truth that Guru Sahib talks about is two different truths, right? When Guru Sahib talks about such, they're talking about the ultimate truth, a truth that cannot be debated, a truth that it is the objective truth. It is the truth. It cannot be destroyed. It cannot be changed. But the truth in this world may not necessarily be the truth. People are like, yeah, man, this guy was an honest guy. He got his stuff. He got his, the justice was done. Everything's good. But was it really? No. The liar, is now going down in history as the person who was honest and being just. That kind of goes and plays to a very big part of who we are as just humans, right? We can present lies to be truth and truth to be lies, But Akal Purkh Vaheguru is the ultimate truth, and his justice is the ultimate truth, and that will play out, in a more of a not from the story, but from life in general. The Madan says that Kood nikutta nanika odak sach rahi, that falsehood will diminish one day. Even if it looks supreme today, it won't last. And that's just the nature of falsehood. It just won't last. It's temporary. Kood nikutta nanika, it will finish. Odak, but in the end, sach rahi, the truth will prevail. And that is, the truth of life. So Satsangaji, I hope you enjoyed the story, and I'll catch you in the next Charitar with the story continuing onwards, and we'll see how this plays out. We'll be then introduced to the robber, who we were introduced to him, but more intimately, and see what he does, and who this woman, who she eventually chooses as her one and only husband. So with that, I'll say my fateh. Please forgive me for many mistakes. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.